Welcome to Sterling High School. We're in the TV studio. I'm joined with Mr. Sheehan, Mr. K. I'm Mr. Claiborne, and we're going to take off these masks as we get started. And first off, Mr. Sheehan, how are you doing, sir?
Things are going well. We're second week of August, and it's been a very productive summer here at Sterling High School, and also it's been very balanced for our family, vacation, starting to get a little bit into athletics in a safe way. So it's been a very good summer, and we're looking forward to a good start of the school year.
Great. Mr. K, thank you for joining us, sir. You are the face of our TV 19 representing Sterling High School, and you do it in the highest level. Thank you so much for you and your team. Mr. Farr is behind the scenes there. How are you and your family?
Just taking it easy. Have canceled our vacations, staying at home, have a pool in the house, and just kind of taking it easy, and like everybody else, one day at a time.
Good. So we're going to talk today about our frequently asked questions that have come up from our schedules, and then also we're going to talk about the governor's recent remarks. So Mr. K is going to represent as a parent for us, as he is, and he has Sean, his student, is right here with us today helping out. So we thank you for representing in that fashion.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some questions that we've come across that parents may have, and hopefully this is going to help parents and community members. First thing, the big story, gentlemen, is the governor came out with a proclamation. Can you explain how that affects you and us here at Sterling High School?
All right, I'll take that one. So the governor came out yesterday, which was August 12th, and announced that schools, if there's an obstacle for them opening safely, can open remotely. Now, what are obstacles? Obstacles can be they don't have enough PPE, they can't open safely, ventilation system issues, potentially staffing issues, or high rates of positive tests in your community. So currently, Sterling High School is prepared for a regular full schedule, a hybrid schedule, and a remote schedule. At this time, we will evaluate our preparedness plan, we will reevaluate our supplies to opening safely, and we will continue to communicate with our Board of Education, with our staff, to make sure that we can effectively staff the building. If we were lacking in any area, we could apply for a remote start of the school year, list the reason why, and a potential open date for in-person instruction. So basically, he's giving districts an option based upon their readiness. Do we love it? It's coming a little bit late. We have parents and staff members that indicate they want in-person instruction, and I think this is throughout the state, throughout the county. The majority of parents want the kids to have in-person instruction. It's the best method, or means to learn. People are going to question whether it's consistent, whether the guidance is going to put pressure on groups, whether it's administration or teachers or communities to make decisions. But everybody's going to look out for the best interest of their own district and determine their own way here. Do I expect things to continue to change? I do. It's going to be a fluid situation as more information comes in, as health and safety questions come up if there's no answers to them. So basically yesterday the governor gave districts an opportunity to choose remote until they are satisfied that they can open up safely.
The question I think a lot of parents are going to have is, and it may be impossible to answer now, what's the timetable? Because parents are wondering, when are we going to know, before the governor said this, what are we doing? Are we in? Are we out? What is the administration's kind of timetable or game plan for parents?
Well, so he also, yesterday, the governor in the declaration said the executive order was that schools may open in person. So with that, we're prepared for our hybrid schedule. So if we were to start tomorrow, we're ready for the hybrid schedule. We know that we're going to open under an orientation first and then flow into the hybrid schedule. Beyond that, we have as much information as everybody else. We know that we can verify that we are prepared for the three options as Mr. Sheehan mentioned.
I guess something else that just popped into my mind here at the top of my head, and it may be very generalized, the answer that you come back with. Let's say we come back, whether hybrid, looks like we might come back. Let's say we start having tests coming back. What should parents expect? Or is it, again, are we back to the day-to-day, we'll see? Or is there something parents should heads up for?
If I can jump in on that, what we don't want what people have seen on TV with schools in Georgia. We have a plan in place, and we have an orientation that's going to be very thorough and kind of like a soft opening. We want to make sure that we are safe, we can get the kids where they need to be safely, social distancing, PPE, positive or test and possibly positive cases are going to come. We have a procedure that the Camden County Department of Health has set up in terms of where do we direct that family or that staff member. The county comes in and conducts contact tracing. We expect that to occur. They haven't set up a limit on what would shut us down, what would put the school in quarantine. We're hoping that we can mitigate, not eliminate, we can mitigate the potential spread of coronavirus by PPE, social distancing. If we do everything right, and a student comes in and maybe he picked it up at a restaurant or out somewhere, when they come in this building, if everything is done correctly, there should really be no issues with contact tracing. The county's going to come in, they'll evaluate, which they're already doing. The county is evaluating our return to school plan. They would come in, they would just, I guess, want to confirm that we're putting kids 6 feet apart in the classroom, that in the hallway we have directional pathways through the hallway, and the students are wearing masks, they're washing hands, and there really should have to be a big contact tracing protocol that would go into place.
All right, with that said now, we have a parent at home who decides, you know what, I'm not ready to send my child to school yet. What are their options?
Great. So we know that the governor did offer that parents can select fully remote. The process for Sterling High School in doing so is going to be in your annual registration on OnCourse. So a mailing is going to be dropped in the mail today or tomorrow that goes home. You should have it in front of you by Monday, August 17th. That mailing is going to give you your OnCourse ID for your student. All students, regardless of grade, are going to have to complete this annual registration. One of the first things that you have to do is request to be in person through the hybrid instruction or fully remote. So that's going to be how you notify the district, is going to be in the annual registration. And then you do have the option. And so a fully remote student will remain home, and then they will participate in the schedule, the hybrid schedule model, logging in daily, 5 days a week, to their classes from the remote session. And then the design with the PM sessions in the hybrid model is that teachers have an additional opportunity to connect with students that were remote that day.
Okay, so now a parent has decided they know what to do if they're going to stay home. What is the education experience going to be if I have a child who's home at my house and my neighbor is going to school? How does that compare between the two?
Great question. So in the hybrid model, we're doing a synchronous live model where all students, whether you're in the classroom or at home, you're going to connect at the scheduled block time. So the synchronization, the connection to the teacher will be the same, other than the fact that a student that comes into school, obviously they're going to be face-to-face physically. We're still going to use Microsoft Teams to be able to conduct the full virtual sessions. Teachers will have flexibility in the duration of that synchronous time slot, and then they will also have freedom to utilize that PM time to really connect with those remote students.
I'd like you to address again the synchronous time. I think a lot of parents are going to be under the assumption that what we went through in the spring is going to be the same that we're going to go through in the fall. Can you really hammer in the differences between what is going to happen once we come back in the fall?
Yeah, good question. So our feedback from both the staff and the student surveys pointed to that the parents wanted to see that their students are up, they're out of bed, they're connecting certain time, they're going to be able to see the teacher, they have concrete due dates, almost like a school function, but they're at home. Whereas in the spring, we were so reactive, and to try to meet everybody's needs, it just led to so many accommodations and variables. Well, here, this is advanced communication. We're telling you, this is the schedule. So if you're in the building, you're at home, you're online. So you parents can expect to see your student with their computer open. And we're gonna follow up with some of the expectations for parents and students at home, to be get yourself a desk space that's quiet, be dressed professionally, sitting up, participating and ready and active at 8 a.m. when your class starts. So we're going to follow up. So those are the big differences from the spring to the hybrid model.
And speaking as a staff member who is also a teacher, I've taken the initial training for this Microsoft Teams, and I'm going to speak that I think the parents are really going to like this. I mean, this is live instruction. We can communicate with the kids. I overall think that the parents are going to be very happy once they see this rolled out. On the hybrid schedule, Wednesday is a little different than the other days. Can you talk a little bit about Wednesdays?
So Wednesday, we know in the hybrid schedule is going to be fully at home. And so we're going to have the staff teaching are going to be able to teach from home. The students will participate from home, but they're still going to log in at the scheduled times. So at the 3A class is 7:29, the block 1 is 8 a.m., block 2 is 9 a.m. So that function all 5 days will remain the same.
All right, then the next question is in what I would call a normal school year. We know we come back after Labor Day. Usually there's a day or two for teachers. Can you guys elaborate what is going to, what, as we sit here now, going to be more or less the schedule for orientating? Obviously there's freshmen coming in, have no idea what's going on. So what's the plan for that, and when does the class, if you will, start to begin from there?
Can I start and then I'll pass it off?
Yep.
All right, so one of the things we have to guard against is opening up our doors to 1,000 students and just saying, have at it. This is the normal way you come in and you just walk around the building. So we want to have a prolonged orientation for both our staff and our students so that they're familiar with the new routines that we're going to put in place that are going to ensure student safety, staff safety, and well-being. So with that, it's going to be an extensive orientation. We're going to take it in small pieces and then build up so that we can safely bring 450 students and 125 staff members to school on a daily basis. So I'll let Mr. Claiborne go into some of those details about the staff and student orientation.
Yeah, so safety's got to be first. Training is important. Training in the safety protocols, but training into what this new normal hybrid instruction will look like. So for staff, that first week, September 1st through 4th, is staff only in the building, giving them additional time for training, for dialogue, for best practices, and so that they can prepare for then the following 2 weeks, beginning September 8th through the 18th, will be the student orientation. And then again, safety's priority, showing them how to move through the school, training on teams and the hybrid model, again, the new normal of virtual instruction, all those pieces. Now, beginning on the 3rd, September 3rd is our first official student day, but that's a remote day. There's going to be remote assignments that students will receive that they can begin on, so that all of those days, the September 3rd through the 18th, count as official days in our calendar school year. But again, just the orientation provides for the safety, the training, and just a nice, safe flow and return to school in a healthy manner.
A lot of talk about masks. What are going to be required from the students and the teachers when it comes to masks?
So big thing with mask is number one, we're through the Board of Education, the CARES grant, we're buying all teachers and staff a mask that we want to give it to you. It's a 2-ply cloth mask that's washable, and that's the recommendation. I think that a big change for you as families, you need to add that to your normal school, back to school supplies, is you need to get yourself not just one mask, a couple masks. We're giving you one, but that's the norm today, right? We can't go anywhere without a mask, so hopefully you have that already. Yes, you can wear your mask. Yes, there are going to be some limitations on some of the masks, which we'll follow up with. We don't want to use just straight bandanas. You can't just pull up your shirt or turn your hoodie backwards. Our best recommendation is that 2-ply cloth mask, but we're going to follow up on that. And masks are required for all staff and students. We know that the governor supported that as well. If you have any medical accommodation, you need to support that by seeing your medical professional and providing documentation.
So I believe August 3rd, the governor changed it. Initially, students only had to wear the mask. Once they sat in the classroom or 6 feet apart, they could take off their mask. So he changed that on August 3rd, that staff and students have to keep their mask on for the full day, which for us is a 4-hour day. The only exceptions, medical, and then like a PE class, and they said a music class is provided they're 6 feet apart. So there are a few exceptions, and medical is going to be the most important one. But again, there's always that parent option, if they're not comfortable with that, to go to the remote hybrid option. So, and why did they put that in place for students? Again, it's to prevent the spread, for contact tracing, to limit contact tracing. If students didn't have masks on, they're saying you have to be within 6 feet for 10 minutes. Well, our classes are going to be 57 minutes long. They're going to be 6 feet apart. All students and staff will have their mask on. So we should really be able to limit the number of potential transfers of droplets or COVID-19 if that were the case.
As I've gone about in the last couple of weeks, I've taken some doctor's appointments, and you can't enter without a temperature check. They seem to indicate to us that's a big thing for entering anywhere. What are we at Sterling High School doing for temperature check?
That's great. So you and I and the TV19 team, we're going to partner together and we're going to create a video. We're going to dedicate a video just on the screening process on the entrance to the building. But you're going to have to do a self-screening, all students and staff upon entering the school. And then right away we've, through the CARES Grant Committee, again in collaboration with the Board of Education, we've invested in thermal touchless temperature scanners. It's a kiosk, so at the main points of entry, a student can go and just step in front of this machine. It's very good, and it gives you, the green light or the red light based on where your temperature is. And so that is part of the process upon entry. And again, we're going to follow up with a video specific to that.
There's also sometimes questions you have to answer. Is there anything like that as well?
Yeah, so the CDC as well as the county and even NJSIA have kind of collaborated on your basic self-screening questions that you want to answer, just cough, fever, things like that. We'll again send that out in advance. One of the things we're going to ask you to do is parents, staff, everybody, you need to do that at home first, right? Don't come here if you're going to answer yes to any of these questions, which you might be familiar with because you're probably doing them in your workforce already. But then when we get to school, we're going to have a specific form that students and staff will fill out, and then they're going to be able to show the staff member at the door that they have completed the survey. And that way, for the comfort of everybody in the building, we've identified that a screening has taken place, a temperature check has been done, and a proper mask is being worn. And then that's going to happen upon entry to the building.
What happens in normal school days, often kids may come to school and then get sick. What are we looking at if a kid passes the temperature, passes the questions, 2 hours later, some form of sickness? What happens then?
So same process, they're going to go to the nurse, right? And if any student or teacher, it just feels uncomfortable or has a question, you're going to go to the nurse. The nurse is going to complete the initial screening process. If there's a secondary screening that's necessary, then schools are required to have a containment or an isolation space, which it's really our secondary screening space to confirm what the level of this need is. And most likely students will have to be sent home, so that they are either seeking further medical help or just quarantining at that point.
I think my next question might be for Matt. When it comes to a COVID case, obviously there's HIPAA laws, you can't say who, what, where. Can you explain the process of how you find out and then what happens from there if there is a COVID case in our school community?
Right, so what we're looking for is we're hoping that if it's a staff member that they would report to Sterling High School, or a student for that matter, that they or their family would report to Sterling High School that they tested positive for COVID. At that point, we follow a protocol established by the Camden County Department of Health. We issue a letter to the community, and it's very vague. There's been a positive test in the Sterling community. That's about as much information as we can give. At that point, Camden County Department of Health takes over. They'll come in, they'll run an investigation, they'll ask us questions about our school protocol with social distancing, with masks, and if they need to follow up with people that were possibly affected. Again, we're hoping to minimize that. Additionally, the family or the staff member would get a letter, and it would commemorate the date of the diagnosis, the 14 days, and the requirements to return to school. So once we get a report, there's a step-by-step procedure that we take assisted by the Camden County Department of Health.
And I just reiterate the fact that it's a partnership with the county. They're not leaving it to Sterling High School to complete this whole process. The contact tracing comes from them. But I posted those county documents on our Roadback website so you could see those, what the county recommendations are for that flow process.
And if I could add, when you go to the website, you look at these, they give you scenarios, they give you levels of relationship to the person. Like, you could have your spouse was next to somebody at work who tested positive. So you're 2 layers removed. What does that mean for you? And it gives you a step-by-step procedure on what you do, but it also tells us that, hey, we can still have that staff member at school. Or if you're going to get tested, we're going to keep you home until we get that result. So those scenarios are very important. I think each of the administrators, all the offices, we've laminated those. They're sitting on our desk. Just in the event, which we think is going to be probably likely to happen, that somebody's going to know somebody who's going to be affected by COVID-19, and it gives us a procedure that we have to follow. And part of that procedure is the county requirements, the letter, the contact of the county so that they can do possible tracing.
I know that you can't say names and things like that, but let's say I'm sending my child to school. Would I as a parent be notified that, hey, look, in block 2 there was a student that had, does it get as specific as that? So will I know, hey, there's one in the school, or it could be specific to me, hey, we've identified we have student X in a classroom, your child happens to be in that class. I'm trying, if you could explain a little bit of what you know.
Well, so far, the form letter supplied by the Department of Education does not get that specific. It's a form letter saying that there's been a positive case diagnosed at Sterling High School, and that's the extent that it goes. From there, there's some measures that we'll take if we have to shut down a classroom, remove students from classrooms, whatever that may be, but we can't get that specific at this point.
All right, so at that point, so just to be clear, it's just something at the school.
Right.
And then we'll just make some steps from there.
That's accurate in the form letter. I think that if a confirmed case happens and it's identified that that student was in close contact, and again, the county's helping with that, then some students may have to quarantine at that point. The county's going to guide us through that.
All right, we'll follow their lead at
Yes.
that point. Okay. I've heard questions about how are these classrooms being cleaned? When are they being cleaned? Because in a normal school setting, especially as adults, we all went to high school, you had blocks, you had periods, you go from one class to the next. Can you maybe talk about what's happening day to day and what's happening period to period?
So yeah, first I want to give a shout out to our maintenance department. They are top notch, and the Board of Education has affirmed that and continue to support them. We already, in a pre-COVID era, all student classrooms would be cleaned every night, which would include all surface areas. That would be a part of the normal process. In addition to that, we have added different things like the misters, that help. There's going to be, making sure that all of the sanitation or disinfecting wipes meet the guidelines as provided by the CDC. So those things will continue to happen every night. Now, in addition to that, we know that on Wednesday and Friday, maintenance is going to do even a deeper clean of the whole school facility. And again, part of the CARES grant allowed us to, and the CARES committee, identify some of the equipment and PPE that we would need to more frequently clean and conduct a thorough cleaning. So we know that Wednesday and Friday we're gonna add another level to our cleaning procedure. And then speaking to the between classes, right? So our students still, the in-person students still move from classroom to classroom. They are going one ways in the hallways, social distancing between hallways. But when they get to their classroom, every classroom will be outfitted with their own disinfectant wipes. Students will be able to clean, and that's part of the training they'll receive in orientation, to clean their own desk area so they can be certain and assured that their space is cleaned from one class to the other. And then the bathrooms, we are going to add an additional bathroom location that we can rotate from so that bathrooms are cleaned more frequently throughout the day, whereas opposed they would only be cleaned in the evening. So they'll be cleaned during the day as well.
And if I could add a few things, the maintenance department and the administration, they'll identify areas of high touch points, doorways, knobs, whatever it may be, and they'll really put a focus on those things, offices. And one of the reasons that we're doing half days, we have to avoid the cafeteria, right? I mean, that's a huge area where kids are going to congregate, they'll stand in lines, they'll be touching a lot of things. So the half day process is going to eliminate food distribution. We're going to offer that on Wednesdays, 4 to 6 o'clock at night, I believe, so we'll get more information on that. But food for students who qualify and who don't qualify. Anybody that wants food can purchase it on Wednesdays for up to 5 days worth of food. And they can take that home, and that's going to account for their food for the week. So we're trying to, again, mediate here and understand, mitigate as best we can the high touch points, the areas that maybe you're going to have a little bit more interaction that could lead to somebody getting sick.
Doors are going to be open to classrooms. So, there's no touching the doors, having to frequent a handle. And we've added our scanning stations, so students are already familiar with scanning in to go to the bathroom or whatever. So the new bathroom's going to have that if you have to go to the main office.
No more blue passes.
Yeah, the blue passes are out.
These are little things.
Passing that thing. So more of those types of things to keep it a touchless environment.
From a parent supply standpoint, does the student need to bring hand cleaner, some type of wipes? Is the school providing that? What do you recommend or suggest for parents when it comes to that?
I totally would recommend that your new school supply kit, no different than leaving your home for something else, is your own little personal hand sanitizer. If you obviously you need to have your mask, maybe a backup mask. You are going to be allowed to bring your tablet bag with you and all of your stuff with it. If it's cool or wet that day and you need a raincoat or what have you, you're going to bring that with you and move that along with you. But yeah, no different than if you need to go to the store shopping and what you needed to protect yourself for that, that's what you want to supply yourself.
What would happen? We've had a situation like this happen where people may go on vacation, they may go away. They may go to another state that's on the quarantine list. Sometimes they might know it going in and coming back. They may have a planned trip right now going to a state that's not on the quarantine list. They might get there, now they're on the quarantine list. What is going to be the policy for parents?
Well, I'll tell you, it's already impacted our vacations,
Yeah.
right? We've
Yeah.
made changes in our plans. Hopefully parents have done the same thing, but Mr. Sheehan, if you'll add to it.
So yeah, again, this is where we're going to trust families to self-report, and I've seen it on the Atlantic City Expressway. If you're traveling from another country or another state, you're expected to quarantine for 14 days. So that's going to be the expectation. We hope that it's self-reported. Now, how would that affect their school day? So if a student is scheduled A and they're supposed to be here on Monday and Thursday, they're just going to pick that up remotely. So there shouldn't be an issue with student absence, with falling behind academically. So again, that speaks to that synchronous instruction and how important it is that you can follow it both on a hybrid and on a remote type setting. So self-report, that would be a form letter, would come from Sterling High School, dedicating the time you've returned, what the return date would be back to school for, in 14 days. So it's going to be a little bit of a clerical challenge to do all these things, but again, we're looking out for not only ourselves but for our teachers and our classmates when we self-report and quarantine for the better interest of the school.
And we do have a attendance code that distinguishes between that you're present online or present in person. So that's an easy transition if somebody has to quarantine for whatever reason.
That just took my other question. That was good. Freshmen coming in. We talked a little bit about orientation, and we're going to make a little bit of video around the school. The tablet is going to be a big thing. Their life is going to revolve around the tablet. How are they getting it? What's the plan for the tablet?
Yeah, great. So again, shout out to our Board of Education, the administrations for, we've already a one-to-one district, so we know that we needed to supply our freshmen a device. We typically get that done in the summer or through an orientation. So with the orientation plan, again, I just want to reiterate, not just freshmen are going to go through an orientation, but everybody, staff and all students. But for the students, the freshman students, they're going to get their tablets. That's the first process that they'll have once they come into the building on their first days of orientation, which is September 8th and September 9th. Now, if you happen to be a student that is in a quarantine situation, then you reach out to us or your guidance counselor, and we'll make sure that we, get you outfitted in advance. But yeah, so all freshmen will receive their devices and training the first 2 days that they're coming in.
From a parent standpoint, that's the list of questions that I had. I don't know if there's anything that we have not covered that you gentlemen would like to address. This would be the time.
Yeah, so just going back to I select fully remote, right?
Okay.
So then I see, and maybe I just needed evidence from that the school was functioning well and healthy, so okay, now I want to come back. What's that process? So for us, under the hybrid model, that's going to be an easy process because you're already participating in your normal classes from home. So what we're going to ask is that you're going to reach out to your guidance counselor. We want you to do that 10 days prior, and then you'll be able to just come back into the school setting. Now, if we flip that and let's just say you come to school, and whether or not you're just uncomfortable or things are going on in the country, and you just decide that I want to stay back at home. We want to accommodate that as well. And again, it's an easy translation. We just want you to, again, email your guidance counselor. 48 hours is more than enough. So if you're in on a Monday, because I'm a blue day, my next day is not till Thursday, 48 hours will give the teacher time to adjust and know that that student's going to be at home for the whatever duration that the parent and them are comfortable.
All right, I want to throw you a question. I'm a parent too. I got 2 students coming to Sterling High School. We opt for remote. Hypothetically, I want my kids to have in-person instruction. Can I participate in activities and sports, provided they're being run?
Yes. So under the hybrid model and the current guidance by the governor, if you chose for your students to be fully remote and stay at home, they still have the opportunity to participate in after-school activities, which includes athletics or any types of clubs that may run at the after-school hour, which again they won't start until normal time of after 2:30. But yes.
And that's about all that I could think of from a parent standpoint. And so I'm good. Thanks for, again, all the hours that you put in, and both you gentlemen, in such an unusual year. Hopefully, like I said, we're ready to go. I think we are, based on all the training I've taken, talking to you. I've been in the school the whole summer. School's ready. We're ready to go. So make sure the kids are ready to go.
Yeah, great. And that letter's going to be home momentarily. You should have it by Monday the 17th. You need to do your annual registration. That's going to walk you through a lot of the process. Plus, that's where you're going to be able to select fully remote if that's what you desire. And then continue to reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to help you.
And if I could, a few things. First off, to the class of 2020, we have a couple announcements. The senior trip refunds, they should be in the mail this week. I appreciate your patience and understanding and knowing that it was outside of our control, but the senior trip refunds should be coming hopefully in your hands by the end of this week. Now some less than stellar news. Unfortunately, the yearbooks, we posted a letter on the website from LifeTouch. LifeTouch is experiencing a lot of delays, as you can imagine, with their factories and workforce and all that. So as a result, our yearbooks are not in, and to this point, they can't give us a date on when they will be in. We will continue to update the website. We'll do as much as we can to contact you once those yearbooks are in about distribution. And that's a tough one to have to share, but I think that's just kind of the reality on where we're at, in this day and age with this pandemic. And we always encourage you to, visit our website, get information on the Road Back page, which you see behind us here. The option to remote, at one point it would be dictated by the governor. Now he's allowing school districts to make that decision. We want to be in person. The data that we've received from our community, they want their students to come to school, but we want to make sure again that it's the right decision for Sterling High School at this time, that it's the safe decision, and we'll keep you posted as we continue to evaluate our building.
So we'll continue to provide you the updates. Thank you, Mr. K, for your time and representing as a parent, and also all you do as TV19. And with that, we got to return to our mass so we can hit the hallways. We thank you, and as always, go Knights.
Good night.